What are we waiting for? Lights, camera, Retro Man.
G'day viewers, Retro Man here and welcome to the 80s Show. Now today I will be discussing the best Charles Bronson book you've never read. Now Charles Bronson, of course, was that famous tough guy actor whose career really soared in the 60s, 70s and 80s. And guys, what I will say is I've read a lot of Charles Bronson books over the years. I think he's a fascinating guy, and he was one of these action heroes that was very quietly spoken, and his actions on screen spoke louder than words. Now you're probably thinking to yourself, what book is he going to show me today? Well guys, I'm sure you've all heard of those books by Paul Talbot. They're very good, and I have both of those. I mean, Bronson's Loose, the making of the Death Wish films by Paul Talbot, is a fascinating read, and I also have Paul Talbot's follow-up, which is Bronson's Loose again. But guys, I'm not here to talk about those two books. I'm here to talk to you about the best Bronson book you've never read. So, guys, let's just cut the suspense and get straight into it. The book that I'm about to tell you about was printed in 1980 by Citadel Press. And here it is right here, guys. It is called The Films of Charles Bronson. Now, this is a fascinating book, guys, and it is full of black and white illustrations. Actually, it kind of goes through his entire film catalogue up until 1980 when this was released. So the final film in this book is Cabo Blanco. So sadly, those Bronson canon films are not included in this book, but luckily I have the Paul Talbot books that kind of continue on Bronson's story with those fascinating canon films. So guys, this is a really, really cool book. I bought this in the early 80s in downtown Sydney. Actually, it was in a bookstore that was kind of in the foyer of a cinema. And it was in George Street, Sydney to be exact. And this was a book that I just had to own. As I said, Bronson is just an interesting guy, and the films that he made in the 60s, 70s and 80s were really something else. So guys, he's a much loved actor, and he's known for all those action roles, but he also has a sympathetic side, and he gets into those little character roles, and I think he does a great job. So guys, I'm sure you'd like to take a look at this great book. It is called The Films of Charles Bronson. So come with me and let's do that. So this is the cover, guys, of The Films of Charles Bronson. This is a book that was released by Citadel Press. And look at that shot there of Bronson. And guys, we also have this one here where he's looking rather dapper in a suit. That's From Noon Till 3. And guys, if I flip it over to the back, we've got some more awesome shots of Bronson. So guys, I actually put a nice plastic cover on this book for protection back in the day. It's just hanging together with sticky tape, as you can see, but I really wanted to preserve it, and I'm so glad I did. I mean, this is a book now that's been around for 43 years in my collection. So guys, The Films of Charles Bronson. Let's check it out. Acknowledgements at the start. That's a great shot of Bronson and his wife Jill. And the contents, man, it's just movie after movie. They go through these films sequentially, so each year of release, film after film. And the man, look at that there, a nice drawing of Bronson. And guys, a great shot of him there in Hard Times. So let's just move forward through it. Full of black and white illustrations. That's Hard Times again. You've got Breakheart Pass there. You've got a shot of Bronson in those early scenes of Death Wish. And there's St. Ives. There's Once Upon a Time in the West, which is a brilliant Western. And Chado's Land. So there's a great introduction here, brimming with photos. And this is where it all starts, the films of Charles Bronson. So what was his first major film? Well, it's this one here called USS Tea Kettle, or you could also call it, it's an AKA, You're in the Navy Now, and that's Bronson as a Navy man right there. So this is kind of kicking off his career in 1951. This was his first substantial appearance of note. So let's have a bit of a flick through. There he is again, a shirtless Bronson there, and he always had a fascinating build. I mean, as he got up in age, he still retained that build. But man, I mean, he was a very, very interesting actor, and he did some great character work in the early years. And what I like about this book is that you get some really neat stuff on those early films. And that is one of the fascinating aspects of his career, that he had one that dated back to the 50s. And that was an amazing movie that he did with Vincent Price called House of Wax. And that was actually a 3D film. So as we move along here, Miss Sadie Thompson was a war film he ended up in. And it's just movie after movie, guys. A boxing film with Bronson called Tennessee Champ that you may not have heard of. This is early 50s stuff. So that's an early Bronson Western appearance, riding shotgun. And here we have Bronson as an Indian in Apache. And look at that photo of him. I mean, he really embodies the look of an Indian, I think. So that's a great photo there. And amazingly, he plays a character called Hondo, which is actually the title of a famous John Wayne film. So look at this, drum beat. Plays an Indian again in that film. Vera Cruz. Big House, USA, that's a prison film. Great portrait of Bronson there. Target Zero. Jubal. Run of the Arrow. Rod Steiger is in that film with Bronson. There he is again playing an Indian. He did that quite a bit in those early years. Machine Gun Kelly. Now that was one of Bronson's bigger roles in the early years. He's the star of that film. And look at those shots of him there with the machine gun. Wow. Showdown at Boot Hill. That's really his first starring role in a Western. Gang War. When Hell Broke Loose. So he was in a lot of war films, a lot of Westerns in those early years. Never So Few. And this is the big one in 1960, The Magnificent Seven. Two great shots of Bronson there in that film. Yul Brynner, of course. There's the Seven. Master of the World. That's an interesting Jules Verne film with Bronson and Vincent Price. Great shot of him there. Look at him here. X-15 as an astronaut. Wow. Kid Galahad, that's Bronson in that Presley picture. This Rugged Land. The Great Escape. And wow, what an ensemble film that was. Steve McQueen, James Garner, etc. Four for Texas. So it really has all of his films. Guns of Diablo. Sandpiper. Battle of the Bulge, another Bronson ensemble piece. This Property is Condemned. Bronson with Natalie Wood. The Dirty Dozen, one of his big films. Telly Savalas there. Guns for San Sebastian, a Western with Bronson and Anthony Quinn. Villa Rides. Once Upon a Time in the West. A great Western with an all-star cast. Sergio Leone. Twinkie, an interesting Bronson character study. Rider on the Rain, a very famous foreign film that Bronson found himself in. You Can't Win 'Em All, Bronson and Tony Curtis. Entertaining adventure film. Cold Sweat, an early Bronson potboiler. Someone Behind the Door. So this is a great Bronson Western, Red Sun, with a fascinating international cast. Definitely one of Bronson's more entertaining Westerns. It has a lot going for it. A great shot there. Bronson, Ursula Andress, Toshiro Mifune. Chado's Land, which is Bronson back in Indian mode. And wow, what an intense film that was. The Mechanic, Bronson and Jan Michael Vincent. That film was a hit. The Valachi Papers, Bronson's answer to The Godfather. The Stone Killer, Bronson's answer to Dirty Harry. Valdez Horses. Mr. Majestic. Now that's a very entertaining film. Death Wish, the one that kind of changed the course of Bronson's career. A mega hit, that film, in 1974. Breakout, a great prison breakout film. Hard Times, an excellent Depression-era drama with some great fight scenes. Bare knuckles fights in that one. Breakheart Pass, an interesting Western. St. Ives, From Noon Till 3. Bit of a change of pace Western for Bronson. It also starred his wife, Jill Ireland. The White Buffalo, where Bronson plays Wild Bill Hickok. Telephone, Love and Bullets. And this is the final film in the book, Cabo Blanco, which was a kind of a Casablanca remake with Bronson and Jason Robards, two of the actors from Once Upon a Time in the West. And as a neat little bonus here, there's Charles Bronson on television, so that's always good. So this back in the day was an excellent reference guide, and I mean these photos really make it pop. So if you're a Charles Bronson fan, guys, this is the book you need, The Films of Charles Bronson. So there we have it, guys, The Films of Charles Bronson, the best Bronson book you've never read. Yes, this one has kind of slipped under the radar for some Bronson fans. It was published, as I said, in 1980, and it just really is a great book. The illustrations are fantastic, and there's plenty of information in here about the films as well. So if you really want an overview of Bronson's career up until 1980, this book really does the trick. But what I want to know, guys, is have you read it? And tell me in the comments below. And this is just a fantastic book that I have in my collection. I've always enjoyed flicking through it. And these photos are just amazing in here. So guys, it was an absolute pleasure walking you through the films of Charles Bronson. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will be back again very soon with some more episodes. Actually, I may even be back with some more Charles Bronson. So if you'd like to see Retro Man talk more about Bronson, let me know in the comments below. And as always, guys, please like, comment, and subscribe, and stay tuned. So guys, this is Retro Man, living the dream, 80s style. Stay gold.
Thanks for watching. Retro Man will return faster than a boomerang and just as cool as Charles Bronson. Please subscribe, and good night, viewers.